What's going on, gamers? I am Merkaba18. Today I have a very important video that I want to put out about Hazmat. This is a build that I've started to unlock some cards for recently, and so I wanted to go ahead and put this video out and show you what I have done with it. We are still missing one piece from this to make it as effective as humanly possible, but I will tell you what that looks like here in just a minute and what you can sub in to make this an even better build than it currently stands as you see it. Now, Sunspot sort of takes the spot for that card that I have not unlocked, which is Wong. I have not yet unlocked Wong, and you're going to want to add that to this particular build in order to make it maximally effective, and I will tell you why here in just a minute. So if you have Wong, substitute Sunspot out and put him in there for you. Luke Cage is one of the most important cards in this deck, and the reason for that is he will remove any effect of negative power to your cards, which means if a person tries to reduce your cards' power, or as with Hazmat here, which we'll talk about in a second, it will prevent your cards from losing any power. That also works really effectively with Typhoid Mary here and some other cards that are not necessarily included in this. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. Now, Hazmat, when you flip her over, she will reduce the power of all cards on the board by 1. That includes your own, which is why you want to pair them with Luke Cage. You often do not want to post Hazmat early because that will only reduce the power of the cards that are currently flipped over on the board once she is flipped over. And you don't necessarily, you can, but you don't necessarily want to put Luke Cage down early either, because it's going to be sort of a signal to your team or to your opponent that they are going to have to expect Hazmat and Typhoid Mary and some of the other cards that can go well with this deck. So try to play these later if you can, especially Hazmat. You can put Luke Cage down pretty much whenever you want to. Just know that it's going to signal a Hazmat build because you don't really see Luke Cage with many other cards. These two are sort of hand in hand. Now, Zabu just recently, as of the timing of this video, just got nerfed. It was a, I think it was 2 or 3 cost 4 power or something along those lines, but it's been reduced down to 2 cost 2 energy, but it used to reduce the cost of your 4 cost cards by 2, and now it reduces it by 1 to a minimum of 1. Now that ongoing effect can be doubled. It can be, you know, there's a number of different zones and other cards that you can pair with it. I've kept Zabu here as a way to play some of these other strong cards in the event that we don't pull Hazmat or Luke Cage or some of the other stronger cards like Typhoid Mary or Odin. So what you want to do is use Zabu as an alternative. Especially now, I would focus most of my effort on Wong if you have him in this deck, Luke Cage, and Hazmat. Now, Lizard is a good option here because you want to put it in a lane for a little bit of buff power, in a lane, obviously, where they don't have 4 cards. Pretty much just there as a way to gain some extra power in a free way that doesn't cost you anything. Now, Ironheart is going to be really well paired with Odin here. You put her down, she stands alone, but she can also be refired with Odin and Wong. So I have Ironheart here as a way to just give my card some extra power to overcome the lack of just... One of the weaknesses of this deck, as you may come to find, is that there just isn't a ton of like raw energy power. And so you use that as a way to try to counter it, especially with Wong and Odin. Rogue will be really effective at stealing other abilities. So like, let's say, for example, they try to counter you in some way with an on reveal or an ongoing power. You can use Rogue to sort of counter some of that. Shuri is a very strong card with Zabu because it will cost you 3 to use her, and then she will double whatever card you play next. Really helpful to be used. Like, let's say, for example, you put Luke Cage down first, Shuri down second, and then Typhoid Mary down third. You will then have 20 power for Typhoid Mary, and none of your cards will have reduced any power, which is the negative effect that comes alongside Typhoid Mary. So Spider-Man is there to sort of try to control where your opponent can play and cannot play. Really important with Hazmat because you don't want your Wong card to be countered by, like, let's say, for example, Cosmo, which is also why you use Rogue, by the way. And then Moon Girl is there to sort of duplicate and maybe offer you the ability to refire with Hazmat twice. In this event, you kind of also then want to use Odin as a way to refire Hazmat. So put Hazmat down late, use Odin to refire it. One of the ways that this sort of plays out perfectly if you have Wong in this, and even without them, you can sort of go, Luke Cage down on one lane, Wong, Hazmat, Ironheart, and then go Odin, which would then refire Hazmat over and over and over again, so that your opponent ends up with way, way, way less power. Your cards are not affected by it, and then eventually you have enough power to simply win. Another great card to sub in here if you want to, and I have done this at times, instead of Rogue, you could use Mystique to sort of copy some of the effects of these cards. Mystique can then, you know, take over some of these ongoing effects, like with Zabu or with Luke Cage, in case they get destroyed or something along those lines. Now, the thing that you really want to keep in mind with this deck is that the hard counters are Cosmo, so you obviously don't want to play any of your on-reveal cards in a Cosmo lane. There are also events in which your cards will be in lanes that do not have on-reveal effects, so you don't want to put them in there. This deck does not necessarily have a ton of like offensive firepower outside of Typhoid Mary. So you really have to be careful about the placement of Hazmat. Make sure that you use them in a way that isn't going to get stolen or countered by Cosmo. And you really need to refire at least twice, or at least on the reveal later in the game. And then if you draw Odin, you can refire it again. That would give your opponents 2 less power per card, which is pretty strong. A lot of times that's just enough. It's really intended to be paired with Wong in an ideal world. At the highest level of the ladder, you're going to want to have Wong before you start to use this until you've mastered it, because then you can place Hazmat down, and then on that placement, you'll get 2 minus power. So let me know what you think of this deck in the comments below. Let me know what you think. What do you want to see a deck review on next? Please let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and make sure to check out the live stream over on Twitch at Merkaba18. I'm going to show you some in-game footage of this deck in action so that you can see it for yourself. Hope you have a good time with it, and I wish you well. Thanks so much for watching.